Folks, this is Sunday, March 22nd at Nesbitt's Island Coffee. We're still in shutdown, voluntary shutdown, and it's sort of strange because the coffee shop is usually buzzing. But it's interesting because a lot of people seem to think that there's really low risk here, and it's no big deal. And all we could suggest is people go back and look at the early days when China thought the same thing in November through December and tried to sort of put a lid on things, and it all blew up. Or you just have to look at Italy. You know, Italy had 3 cases, and then, well, there's no problem here. And now look at Italy now, and all you have to do is turn on any news channel for that. It's interesting, if you were to think about that old story, what would you rather do if somebody said, I would give you $1 million right now, or a penny every day and double it for 30 days, which would you take? And as you work out those numbers, take a penny for the first day, that's 1 penny times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4, and so forth for 30 days. And add them up and see where you end up. Well, in a sense, that's how this virus is spreading as you look around the world where it's really gone crazy. So let's say someone has the virus and they think it's no big deal. They're not even sick yet. They don't know they have it. And so that person spreads it to 2. Those 2 people spread it on. So then you're looking at, by 4 days, you have a total of 13 people who have been exposed to this virus. And there's the potential for 30 people being sick. And on average, one doesn't really show statistically symptoms until maybe the 4th or the 7th or the 10th day. So if you take those numbers down, take to the 7th day, there would be 254 people with the potential to be infected with this virus, and nobody knows anybody is sick yet. Take that down to 10 days and you're looking at about 2,046 people who are potentially infected. And so the first person gets sick. Most people don't know it yet. They're still out spreading this thing. It's sort of an insidious virus. So I think everybody should be careful. Especially, a lot of younger people. And I remember when I was 18, 19, I was invincible. I would, hey, nothing's getting me, and I would still party and do the things that I always did. But as you look at that in another perspective, if you get sick and you pass it on to a whole lot of people, I mean, especially if you know the possibility of doing that, is that an ethical thing to do? Well, I think one should think about that. The other thing I was wondering about is toilet paper. Everybody is complaining about people hoarding toilet paper. And I don't really see the sense of that. I don't think people are really hoarding anything, they're just being practical. I think maybe we're pampered today and never have to go without. But if you grew up on a farm years ago when you were miles from a town or a city, or if you grew up on one of the other islands where travel was restricted by the conditions of the weather, I mean, you sort of stored and prepared for things. Let's say I can remember as a kid, everybody had magazines on the outdoor biffies for people to sort of read while they're doing their deal. But it was when there was no toilet paper, you found that Sports Illustrated, Western Mariner, the Sears Christmas catalog, those pages were pretty slippery, and they were slippery as hell, and they really didn't flush too well. So I think people storing things or preparing for an emergency, we could be shut down here for 2, 3, 4 months. Who knows? And so it's only prudent to be able to look after yourself. The problem is everybody left it to the last minute. Now, this is maybe a good exercise. We live in earthquake country, so this is a good exercise for a disaster. Make sure you have stores in place, not for 72 hours like everybody tells you, but for a couple of months. And it's not that you're just storing stuff to let it go bad. You're storing things that buying things ahead that you use on a daily basis, and you just keep rotating those things. It's just prudent and smart to do that. I mean, you wouldn't go sailing without a plan in mind. I mean, you wouldn't take your going a long boat trip without having a route planned and checking different charts and tides and that sort of thing. And there's no difference with just getting your pantry in order. Like you say, we live in an earthquake zone. This is a good exercise for us on Vancouver Island, where it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when that superquake is geared to happen. And for those who think that's all nonsense as well, there's a really neat book. It's called Full Rip 9. You can get that off of Amazon. Full Rip 9. And it goes through a series of events that some young engineers and archaeologists followed to get the sequence of these earthquakes. Now, when one happens, it just doesn't happen in Campbell River. It happens from up the coast and down the coast as far as Northern California. So you have to think about this. Right now we have internet, we have telephones, we have hydro, we have water, so it's pretty cool actually. So you're isolated. Well, there's a ton of things you can do. But if there were a big earthquake, I mean, we'd be a sort of an afterthought, a small community on the center of the island. When you think where the populations are in Vancouver, Victoria, Seattle, Portland, I mean, that's where all the emergency equipment is going, because that's where all the people are. So you'd be on your own for maybe 6 months. So how would you look after yourself if you survived, didn't end up in the truck, and you survived the earthquake? It's good to have a pantry prepared. It's good to have a grab-and-go bag, so if you have to be evacuated, you have the personal stuff you need, a few coins, your medications, if you take medications, toothbrush, all that sort of thing ready to go. And I know people think that, well, that's maybe not important. But as we look at ourselves today, I think it is. And of course, you look at governments, and they have all kinds of different ideas. I hear today that you can now, a licensed restaurant can have liquor to go, alcohol to go. I mean, are we just thinking about money, or are we thinking about people's lives? I mean, 300 doctors out of Vancouver, approximately 300, have requested that more things be shut down because things are going to go exponentially. And those numbers we talked about, if you look at, we have over 400 confirmed cases in British Columbia. You could possibly multiply that by 10 or by 20 to see how many cases are out there. And just sort of project that again, just to see how many more people are being infected. But anyway, just my thoughts for today. I wish we were open. Sundays we usually have a crowd in here. I remember one Sunday Tom was brought in his own blueberry pie, and we had everybody here having pie with their coffee. It was sort of a fun day. So let's all look after each other, look after things. And don't forget to call people who are out on their own. Don't want to go visit them, but give them a shout. Make sure they're doing. Some people just can't handle being on their own. I touch base with Ted and Crystal. They're all good. They're living on their boat. Touch base with Dan and Sheila. They're okay in Ironwood Place. No illness so far. And touch base with John as well. And most of our customers know these people. And John's got a bit of the flu, so we're keeping in touch with him. If he needs, we're just sort of concerned. He's 80 years old, so that's all for now. Take care and have a wild weekend in a positive sense. If you do.